It's 11/11/2024. Level Up College Football Podcast in the building. Fans First Sports Network. Chilling backstage with my boy Andy P and my girl Sarah C. Hey, listen, wherever you get your audio podcast, be it Apple, Spotify, Google, all them different spots, all them different places, make sure you check out the Level Up College Football Podcast. And we're live on YouTube. So swing on over to YouTube, watch the podcast, like, subscribe, put comments in the thing. We appreciate it. We got people over there right now. But before I get to all that, all the people, all the stuff, we start talking about college football, I got to kick it to my co-hosts, Andy and Sarah. Andy, what's cracking with you, bro? What's going on?
I'm happy to be back. I'm sorry I couldn't fill in last time, but I'm very lucky that I got some really good Brooklyn Nets tickets. There we go. Not New York, but they're right down the road. So it's an easy get for me, but you guys held it down as always, sharing the knowledge. And I am ready to talk about the rest of college football now that Syracuse is officially donezo of the ACC title conversations. We got bobbed. I really thought I'd be done with Bill O'Brien causing my football team's pain, but had to happen one more time. And that's my weekend. How about Sarah? What was up with you? What were you doing this weekend?
Well, I just came back from vacation, so sadly I had to work all weekend being in the lovely restaurant industry. So I pretty much was work or football was my entire weekend. So, but I still enjoyed it. I still had a good time. Happy to be with you guys always.
Absolutely, man. Great to hear from you guys. You know how we go. We always ask what's going on with you, what happened with your weekend. It's a lively Monday, y'all, because we had a great weekend of college football without a shadow of a doubt, man. Great things happened over the weekend. Some upsets things happened on the weekend. But the big deal is that first college football playoff picture came into light. And I think it was a lot of what we thought was going to happen. But the issue was we got another poll coming. So we had poll number 1. We saw the rankings. We saw everybody was. Then some games was played. And now we're approaching poll number 2. So I just want to get a little quick recap from what you guys thought about poll number 1 and how you think the upsets are going to affect poll number 2. Because I've been telling all the people out there, take a snapshot every week of the picture. Because if the picture shows that one way, I promise you, by the time we get to the end, it's going to look completely different. So, Sarah, I'm going to ask you first. What did you like about poll number 1, the upsets that happened over the weekend, and then what's your reflection, or what do you think is going to happen with poll number 2?
I wasn't really that surprised by poll number 1. I think some of the rankings were a little surprising. I think the undefeated teams kind of got a little bit of disrespect, but now that we saw what happened this past weekend, now it makes me question at least one of those teams a lot more than the other, I think, personally. I think that they have a lot more faith in, of course, the SEC and the Big Ten. That's really no question. I think that the LSU-Bama game really is going to affect it more than I think the Georgia game because of the fact of where Ole Miss is in the SEC versus where Georgia is. They have a lot of respect for Kirby Smart. They have a lot of, faith in him that he can pull it off. He was almost in it last year and he shouldn't have been. And look at what he, played in that game. So I think that it's definitely getting interesting. I really am intrigued to see what's going to happen on Tuesday. I really want to see where BYU ends up. I really want to see where Miami and SMU end up, because those are the two teams that I'm very intrigued to see. Are they going to switch? Is Miami going to drop? Is Miami going to stay? I just think SMU is a little bit more on the rise ever since they've switched over quarterbacks. And, Miami's been playing that little game where, were they going to lose this week? No. Were they going to lose this? Even this week, when I watched that entire game, I'm like, they're going to end up pulling this off. They're going to end up pulling this off. And they did it. And I was all excited. And then, and then Pitt lost. So then I wasn't so excited anymore.
Yeah. That sucks, But, I understand you trusting in Cam, but that's a whole nother topic. We got another topic, a whole topic for that about the Heisman and everything. So, Andy, what's your reaction this week, because you wasn't with us last week when me and Sarah was chopping it up about what we thought the first poll. Sarah, I think we were about in the 90 percentile.
I was going to say, we did pretty good.
Yeah, we were really close. I think we might have missed one, maybe one or two in the top 20. So, Andy, I just want to get your reaction and then what you calling for in poll number 2, bro.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest losers I thought of the initial poll were the ACC and the Big 12. And we knew that was going to be the case just because of the lack of I think one of the things that was made abundantly clear, the great teams are in the Big 10, and that's Oregon and Ohio State. The very good teams are the entire top half of the SEC. And the rankings essentially believe the numbers and said, okay, we're going to basically mirror what all these advanced numbers say, and then we're going to sprinkle in, a Miami. We're going to sprinkle in Boise. And I think now what's interesting to me is that we saw in that first projection that BYU was not ranked in the top 4, but still got a top 4 seed because if you win your conference, you automatically get one of the top 4 seeds if you're one of those 4. What I think now is it's on the table here for the Big 12 and for the ACC. They might be one of the conferences that gets left out of the buys because Boise right now continues to rise. They continue to plug along. And remember, their only loss is to the undefeated Oregon Ducks. If they run the table the rest of the way and Oregon runs the table the rest of the way, Boise has a better argument than, sorry to say it, Big G, but like if Ohio State loses to Oregon twice, Boise only lost to them once. They deserve to be in that top 4 ranking. They deserve to be ranked higher than a 1 or 2 loss ACC school or 1 or 2 loss Big 12 school. And that means that the Big 12 or the ACC will get knocked down into the 5 seed, which we all thought was going to be some random at large bid. And so now we're really looking at a scenario here where I am interested to see what the committee values. And for me, that litmus test is going to be Indiana. They are in a power conference, which is what everybody said you had to do. You had to be in one of the Big 2 in order to get respect. Indiana's in the Big 10 with Ohio State and Oregon. They said that you have to win your conference games and you can't lose, soft non-conference games. Indiana's 10-0 and they're undefeated and they've done so in convincing fashion. But we saw last week the committee liked a lot of one-loss teams better than they liked Indiana. And now we're looking at a team like Georgia that just lost another game. We're looking at LSU that pretty much is eliminated from playoff contention here. We talked about Pitt dropping a game here. And I think this is like my biggest question. Does Indiana get ranked above a Texas? Does Indiana get ranked above a Georgia? Does Indiana get ranked above a Penn State or a Notre Dame? Because if the answer to that question is no, then we know the committee is just here trying to put in the biggest names, the biggest helmets to create the most interesting matchups rather than rewarding the teams that have actually played the schedule that's in front of them. And for me, that's what tomorrow is going to be all about because, again, Big G, you talked forever ago about the chaos scenarios here. If Indiana does what it needs to do, that matchup against Ohio State in a few weeks is going to be a win and get into the Big 10 championship game and maybe a win or be a double-digit seed and have to go on the road in the first round of the college football playoff. And that is wild to me, but that's the way the season's shaken out.
Andy, man, I like that. And Sarah, I love what you were saying too. So this is just a scenario that Sarah, we talked about this last week. I think Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon all end up with 1 loss. I think the Bucks beat Oregon. Ohio State beats Penn State and Indiana. They move to the 1 seed. The question is going to be, where do those 4 Big 10 teams slide after that? And Andy, I agree 100%. We're going to see what the committee does with the rankings because I got a projection because, we're talking projections. It's just my projection of the top 12. My projection for the top 12 tomorrow is Oregon at 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, Indiana 5, BYU 6, Tennessee 7, Notre Dame 8, Alabama 9, Miami 10, Ole Miss 11, and Boise State 12. That's just my projection. So I'm thinking that there's going to be some stuff that happened that shake it up. So the litmus test for me, like you said, Andy, Indiana, Boise State, where are they at? I don't think BYU is in question because they're still undefeated and they're going to be there. So saying all that, what do you guys think as far as projections? And do you like what I'm saying as far as the 12 is concerned? Andy, I'll go to you first, man. With those rankings, what are you seeing?
I think one of the questions that I have is just how far does Georgia drop now that they have 2 losses? You have to put Alabama and Ole Miss above Georgia since those are the 2 teams that knocked off the Bulldogs so far. But then you have Texas sitting all the way up at number 3, who Georgia beat. And like this is where it starts getting really interesting with these mega conferences because you're going to have these triangles where everybody's defeated each other. So for me, I think the top 3 or 4 is probably locked in right now, where Oregon is 1, Ohio State's 2, Texas is the top team in the SEC. They're going to be number 3. Penn State's only losses to Ohio State, so they're going to be 4. Now, again, I think that there's an argument to be made that Indiana should be above Penn State because they're undefeated in the same conference.
Facts.
I think there's an argument to be had that Indiana could be above Ohio State for that same reason. Do I think that's going to happen? No, but I understand the argument that's at play there. For me, it starts getting really interesting at that 6th spot because my question is, do you move up Bama in order to give you more cushion to put Georgia in? So remember, the AP poll dropped Miami all the way down to number 12, dropped Boise State down to 13 because of all the action happening above them. And I just don't know if you're the playoff, you're going to have to leave one of these really good 2 or 1 loss teams out of the playoff. And I think SMU's probably the loser here. Miami's going to be in just because they're still top of the ACC. Right. But I think that if making me pick here, I think 5 is going to be Indiana, 6 is Tennessee, 7 is Alabama, 8 is BYU, 9 is Ole Miss, 10 is Notre Dame, 11 Miami, 12 Boise. And you've got Georgia on the outside looking in, and you let that Georgia-Tennessee game kind of be another playoff elimination game for the Bulldogs.
I feel it. So, Sarah, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Okay, this is the deal. Alabama is currently ranked 6th in the SEC. Okay? They do not control their destiny to get to the SEC championship game. They don't. Georgia is currently ranked 5th in the SEC. They don't control their own destiny to get to the SEC championship game. Even with a win against Tennessee, they are not guaranteed to make it because Ole Miss beat them head up. And if Ole Miss wins out, Ole Miss goes to the SEC championship game against the winner of Texas A&M Texas. So I'm asking you that to say, do you think that there's going to be a lot of bias concerning Georgia and Alabama, considering the fact that you have Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss, who currently right now are better than them in the own conference that they're supposed to have the strength in? That's my question. Do you think there's bias that they got to get Georgia and Bama into the playoff?
I think at least one. I don't know if it's going to be both. I think it's really going to come down to these next couple weeks. And it is so funny, though, to look at that because A&M could end up being in the playoffs. And, they've played some really great games, but they've had some really, really rough losses. And I personally think that Bama's moving a little bit better in the right direction than I think Georgia did. I think Georgia looks really, really bad. I do not have any, Beck is just a mess. And that offensive line is letting
Sarah,
become a mess.
Say it with your chest. He's garbage. Call it out. Tell him that he's trash. Go ahead and say it. You got permission. Tell her. I'll put the sign up for you upside down and this way. Trash.
He is. And it's like what happened but I think it has a lot to do with that offensive line. And he just has no confidence in himself when he doesn't have the pressure, when he's having so much more pressure coming up to him. So I think that it's going to be one or the other. I don't think it's going to be both. I think Georgia's going to possibly drop because I think Ole Miss just made them look awful. And I was shocked at the amount of confidence that Ole Miss had. And I mean, just watch Lane Kiffin finally like get over that little bit of a hump. I kind of enjoyed watching it just a little bit. I know he kind of annoys a lot of people, but sometimes I enjoy his little bit of stuff. And I think Kirby even said, he's like, and he even said it, he got out coached, and that says something. And they have better talent. And that Dart boy, like you said last week, I mean, the way he came up after that injury, after that interception, he just looks so poised and so comfortable back there that I think he really gives Ole Miss a lot of hope and a lot of like, what's the word that I'm looking for, that they could bounce into those conversations of being in the top of the SEC just because of him and what he has brought to that team. So yes, I think it's going to be Bama. I mean, Milroe really played a good game. I was happy to see him kind of bounce back. And I think Georgia's just dropping week to week, every week, with the 12 interceptions of Beck and just him looking so depressed on that sideline.
I feel it, man. I feel it. So this is the second part of this, right? So we talked about off air when we talked about our script and all whatever else. We put it out there talking about fool's gold, because there's teams that look like they're on the trajectory to make it, but there's teams that I just got questions. Maybe because there's no clear dominant top 1, 2, or 3, because in this playoff era, anybody appears like they can beat anybody. So I just want to get from you guys, who's fool's gold and who's for real, because there's teams that's not even in the current top 12 that can make it. But then there's teams that's in the top 12. I'm like, get up on out of here. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you, tell me one team that's for real and one team's the straight fool's gold that won't make the playoff or might not even be in the rankings this week, in the top 12 this week on the college football poll.
I'm going between two different teams, and it's kind of where it comes into the rankings. I think there's only going to be one Big 12 and there's going to be one ACC team. And I think that comes down to SMU and Colorado, if they can pull it off in the rest of their seasons and pull off the wins in their conferences. I haven't been able to watch as much SMU, but I've been able to watch highlights and been able to research them a little bit, and they really, really look great. But Colorado is just doing some amazing things, and the amount of watchability that they do have really, really gives them a big jump up in that idea, because they're not some, little Big 12 team like, Iowa State or Kansas State or all these other teams that, they're good or they could be good, but they're not so good. But then you have Colorado with, 2 Heisman hopefuls possibly, and a coach that will bring so many people to the television. So I think that they might be able to pop in there. I'd be really intrigued to see where that goes. And that's where I kind of have I think by BYU, even though they are undefeated, I think they're going to probably end up in the Big 12 championship if they can win out. I have a little bit of questions on possibly this week, but I think they're going to end up possibly being the ones that miss out, because that game this past weekend I stayed up sadly to watch that game.
And Sarah, they cheated too. I don't care what nobody said. I saw that.
Bad.
There was some cheating going on out there. It was cheating.
Well, the refs in the Big 12 and the ACC have just been a little bit on the questionable edge of things. So those are the teams that I really am wondering what I'm going to see, especially this week. And then at the end, but Colorado is probably the biggest one that I'm just excited to watch every single week now, because if they can win out, they have a chance to really take that Big 12, and it's going to be really exciting if they do make it into those playoffs.
I like it. Andy, same question. Let's go for your fool's gold team first, and then you tell me your for real team, bro.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to get on that Alabama bandwagon after this win, and for good reason. Alabama jumped up to number 1 in ESPN's College Football Power Index. Bill C's SP Plus still has Alabama as a number 5 team in the country. If you go by net EPA, another big stat that's really predictive, Alabama's number 2 in the country. I just think that this is a team where when things are clicking, things are going to click at a really high level. And we saw in this past game against LSU, they got an incredibly favorable matchup where the Tigers have struggled all season long against mobile quarterbacks, and Jalen Milroe was able to use his legs, and it was basically an easy button for him all night long. But they are my fool's gold team, if only because we have seen consistently time and time again that this team is just inconsistent if the matchup's not there. They have a really difficult time figuring out how to win a game if it doesn't go according to script. And this is something that, to be fair, is typical of a team that has a new coaching staff coming into play. Kalen DeBoer is one of the best offensive game planners in the country. We saw that in the Georgia game. He was able to take advantage of a very specific defect in the Georgia defense. And then once Georgia figured it out mid-game, that game goes 2 more possessions. Georgia probably wins the game. LSU doesn't adjust. Alabama's able to take advantage of LSU's struggles, and they're able to win that game here. But we've seen in the games that they lose, when that offense doesn't have the easy button of Jalen Milroe throwing the deep ball downfield or running with the ball, this offense is just not super efficient. When the running game isn't able to get 4 or 5 yards a carry on first and second down, this offense just doesn't work right. And so for me, I look at Alabama and I say, yeah, they're probably one of the top 12 teams in the country. But you get into that playoff game where you have weeks and weeks to prepare between games. I just don't know if this team is going to be able to adjust if things don't go perfectly right. And we've seen time and time again in these playoff games, teams like that, cough, cough, Michigan versus TCU, get steamrolled when they are not able to make adjustments mid-game or able to adjust when things don't go according to plan.
Facts.
Yeah.
So y'all gonna be mad at me, man. But I promise you guys. Matter of fact, we might get some furniture moving around when I say what I say. I'm gonna tell you who might be fool's gold for real. The Texas Longhorns. Listen, I'm telling y'all something. I've been watching them. I've been paying attention to him. I'm not being biased. Ewers struggles when you can get him away from center. When he's got to take 3 steps left, 3 steps right, there's a lot of struggle going on. Now, are they a Maserati? Yes. Do they have a decent defense? Not one of those top 3 or 4 defenses? Yes. And they also can't stop the pass. So I'm looking at what they have remaining on their schedule. They play at Arkansas, that's going to give them fits this week. They got to play Kentucky, who wants to get you in a phone booth and beat you up. And then they got to play the last game at Neyland Stadium down at A&M for probably all the marbles. I'm thinking that Texas is going to take a hit. Somewhere in there between going to Arkansas and Fayetteville, Suey, go Hogs, playing Kentucky at the crib, like I said, they don't care where they play. And believe me, Baby Stoops, Mark Stoops, he loves to win signature games. Ask Georgia's coach. Go ask Nick Saban how he likes to win them signature games that don't nobody give him no credit for. He had Georgia beat dead to rights this year. Had them beat dead to rights. And they beat the brake shoes off of South Carolina, who's, to me, playing some of the best football in the SEC right now. And in that last game, you got to go down to A&M and battle the 12th man? Oh, come on now. Come on now. Texas might be in a little bit of trouble. And I'm calling it. And people, I talked to multiple Longhorn fans today. Half of them agreed with me. Half of them didn't. Half of them saw what I saw. Half of them didn't see what I see. So the fool's goal might be the Longhorns. Now, who I think is for real, who I think is really for real, and like you don't want no part of them, is the Tennessee Volunteers. Listen, Andy, you was on the hype train a long time ago, right? And you was trying to tell me, man, and I sat down and started watching film. And when I started watching film and I see what they put on there, the only deal is this. if you can shake Nico early, you might get him. But if you don't shake him early and he lathers up, you in trouble because they got a dog running back and they might have the best defensive line, front four in the SEC. And that's saying a lot because South Carolina's some dogs, A&M is some dogs, Georgia's some dogs. There's killers out there. So I think Tennessee is for real. I think Tennessee, and we'll get to the predictions, is going to cause a lot of mayhem concerning the SEC this season. Make sense, y'all?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So listen, we got to pause for the cause. Thanks for everybody that's watching us on the live chat right now. We got a lot of folks in here like normal. We appreciate it. We gotta pay some bills. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be right back. If you're listening to us on audio, wherever you get your audio podcast, Spotify, Google, and on Apple, we'll be right back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. And we're back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Andy P and Sarah C in the building. After you're absolutely correct. G would never have a hot take. That's fake news. That's big cap. I'm going to always have a hot take. And I'm going to tell you like it is, whether you like it or not. So I appreciate it. And Rob Lightfoot, you talking about Bama. He said, if you make Milroe have to beat you with his arm, Bama is cooked. I don't disagree. And I don't think my podcast hosts disagree either. I think Milroe is a one-pass option, and that's it. Y'all think so?
I just think that offense should be better than it is. But, man, this was the same thing we said about Milroe last year. Throw the ball. You can throw the ball real far, and he throws a real pretty deep ball.
That's big facts. Sarah, what you saying?
No, I agree. But when he is able to get out of that pocket and he's able to run, I mean, you cannot stop him. And that's literally all we saw this past week. So, yeah, he does. He throws really pretty ball. If he has to do it, though, a few too many times, yeah, I don't see them pulling it off at all.
But I just don't, I don't see it. But like I said, I take hot takes. People can accuse me or whatever else. But y'all know, y'all been around me. And when it comes to college football, like minds think alike. And I think that my panel, we all see the same stuff that we're talking about. And I think a lot of stuff, I bet you we've probably been about 90% accurate on the year. We might have missed here or there, but for the most part, we calling it like we see it. All right, y'all. So we got to move to the next topic. We got to start breaking down games because we're going to run out of time. Let's get to the first game of the week. And it's the team we was talking about. That's why I didn't harp on it. It's the Texas Longhorns, currently ranked number 5. 13.5-point favorites going to Arkansas, invading Fayetteville, going to mess with them Hogs. Y'all talk to me about what you see this week with the Texas Longhorns going to Arkansas. Andy, I'm going to swing it to you first, bro.
Yeah, this is a game where if Texas is as good as we think they are, this should be a put the throat on the neck and win this game fairly easily. Texas, again, when you look at most of the numbers, whether it's SP Plus or whether it's EPA, they are one of the best offenses in the country, and they're a top 10 defense, which is what you want. The key for Texas is that Arkansas, above average offense, very terrible pass defense. Their defensive EPA per dropback is 80th in the country. So again, to your point, Big G, this should be a game where Quinn Ewers should have the easy button throws. It's not like Arkansas is going to be asking Quinn Ewers to make difficult throws in order to beat them. It's not like this should be that hard of a passing attack or a secondary to take apart with the passing attack. But again, things don't always work out the way they should, especially when you've got to go on the road. And I don't know if you all have been on social media right now, but Quinn Ewers is about to be dealing with some off the field distractions due to him sliding into too many people's DMs and maybe messaging some inappropriate things.
Big facts. Big facts. That's all true. That's all true.
I'll send that tweet out to everybody. I'll throw that one out there. But all I'm saying is this: look, this is a game where Texas should win going away by throwing the ball down the field. But again, I haven't loved Texas in those games, and Sarkisian has kind of worked around these issues by incorporating screenplays and a lot of misdirection and player motion. Like, I think everybody saw that highlight from this past weekend where Texas had the 7 different guys running around in the backfield in order to get the wide receiver on a very complicated jet sweep that went for 40 or 50 yards. You shouldn't have to work that hard to beat Arkansas, but again, they've been very inconsistent in situations like this.
I'm feeling it. Sarah, I'm just going to ask you point blank range. Does Arkansas have a chance in hell of beating Texas? Is this a real thing, or what you thinking?
I wish I could say yes. I think that the one thing that Texas does have is they have a ace in their back pocket that, could always pull in and come in. I was
talking
impressed.
about that backup quarterback.
Yeah, I'm talking about that backup quarterback. I mean, he even played a couple little minutes at the end when they were winning. But one thing I was impressed by that I was surprised that we didn't talk about earlier was that they actually ran the ball this past week, and they had 100 yards rushing a running back, which I was shocked by. And they were able to actually get some of that timing underway, which is what I think was the most impressive part of this past week. And I think that really gave viewers a little bit more of the confidence, and that's why he was able to throw the ball. And he can do it. It's not that he can't. I just think that when you give him a lot of pressure, he starts to kind of like almost like get into like how armadillo like gets into that little like cove. He like all of a sudden hides, and then he just can't seem to get out of it. Just kind of like a lot of these other quarterbacks that just keep making these mistakes and just can't stop. But that ace in your back pocket, I mean, even if it looks a little bit rough, you're going to pull him out and you're going to win this game. I mean, this isn't the game to lose. This isn't the type of game that you want to lose. You have, the big game in 2 weeks. The only thing that I can think of is that this could be a slight trap game because of the fact that I think they're looking at in 2 weeks, because I think that A&M is probably going to be the biggest competition they see before they hit the SEC championship, if they make it that far. But I wish I could say it. It would be nice to see a little bit more chaos, because I know you love it, and I'm actually really starting to enjoy it a lot too. But
that's facts there.
I just don't see it. I think Texas's defense is going to play good enough. I think that they're going to play a keep away, and yours is going to probably stay. If he starts to make mistakes, like I said, they have Manning, but also they have a running back that they know can run and can make plays. So we'll see.
Right. So Talon Green is a difference maker for Arkansas. His RPO game is nice. The issue is he just doesn't have the on-field experience that you would like to see with a kid who hasn't played that much college football. He's played in some big games, but he just started to maturate this season because he was just able to overtake and take the job, right? Remember, he didn't start at quarterback at the beginning of the year for Arkansas. So when you look at his stats, they're a little skewed. He's got like 2,500 yards passing, I think 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But the deal is he's only played like really 4 or 5 games. So he has the ability to beat you with his legs and beat you with his arm. But I don't think the game's there. I think that Arkansas has serviceable defensive backs. And I think that plays against Texas' strength. And I think they also got a game record. And Landon Jackson, defensive end from Texarkana, Texas, 6'7", 280-pound stud defensive end. I think he's got like almost 5 sacks, maybe 6 sacks on the season. He's a game record. So if Texas shows that they can't run the ball, now Jackson gets loose. And that's what they don't want at Texas. So I think it comes down to, do they make Ewers move off of his spot, make him move laterally, left and right, and then can the quarterback beat them with his legs? And I think both of those things are going to be pivotal to this week's game concerning the preview. So I'm asking, y'all know how we get down. Andy, what's your score prediction and what you got, bro?
I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I'm just really not high on this Arkansas team. I think that they're good, not great, and I think that ultimately they're bottom half of the SEC, and I think Texas takes care of business. Give me the Longhorns 38-18. Texas covers. Texas wins big. I just don't see Arkansas being the one to push Texas in the ways that we all know they can be pushed.
I like it. Sarah, what you got this week?
I'm quite close to that. I went with Texas. Like I said, I just don't see it happening this week. I had Texas 36-17.
So you got a 21-point win. I like it. I'm not upset at it, But I'm gonna tell y'all this: the game's gonna be a lot closer than what y'all think. It's gonna be in the fourth quarter. Because I got to tell you a secret that I know. Over 60% of Arkansas's roster are Texas kids. These kids have been playing against each other their whole lives. They're not intimidated by Texas. So they're going to show up. Now, is that going to be a risk or a factor? We'll see. But I just think ultimately Texas has too much speed. So when it gets close at the end, Texas will pull away. But I'm telling y'all right now, 31-24, 31-27, something like that. This game's not a blowout because I think they're going to put pressure on yours. And, oh, God, don't let it get in the fourth quarter and it's close because now we might have something. So I ain't tripping, but I don't know if this is the week, but trust me, Texas got a little bit of trouble coming their way. All right, we got to get to the second game. This is right up y'all alley. This is ACC country, which to me is an elimination game, period, for the ACC. Number 23, Clemson, is a 10-point road dog to go in and face number 18, Pitt, over there in Pittsburgh. So, Sarah, this is your squad. So I'm gonna let you go at it first. You tell me what you're thinking, and does Pitt still got a chance to make it based on that loss that they just recently had?
I don't think so because I think that what happened to me? Am I muted somehow?
You almost was. I thought I was about to give you the big
almost. You're all good. You're all good.
Where did you see me load that joker up? I was like the big, and I stopped. I was like, no, not yet.
I just think that this is the classic Pitt, Narduzzi Pitt team. They are starting to fall. They had a bad week, and then they had another bad week. They had 11 penalties this past week, and most of them should not have happened. Those were just very inconsistent plays and bad coaching. Like there's no discipline there. I also have a lot of questions about what's going to happen with Holstein. He is getting hit hard and he can't come back from it. So if he's not in it, who do you have? I mean, it was a really, really rough one to watch. I just think that they look sloppy. I think that defense has regressed. I think the whole team has regressed. And sadly, I listen to a lot of radio and read a lot of the news around here. This is the classic Narduzzi drop. And it just sadly just continues to keep happening. He looks super high in the beginning. He starts making, big changes, that offensive coordinator, well, we're going to do it this year. And you played one really, really good team. And then you're playing a Virginia team that didn't even deserve to be that close in that game. Now I know there were, again, some calls that probably were a little bit questionable, but that shouldn't be why you lose that game. And I think that Clemson, has looked good. I like their offense a lot. I like their quarterback. You want to talk about someone that throws a nice deep ball. He throws a nice deep ball. It's a really, really pretty one. So I just think that they are just on the downtrodden way, and it makes me sad, but maybe this will finally, every year you just want the change to finally happen. Is it going to be coaching? Is it going to be, we're going to try to get more NIL. We're going to try and go into the transfer portal a little bit more. Holstein was a big get, but just not enough. And I'm waiting to see how it happens, but I just don't have faith in this team anymore, sadly. And it makes me sad because, I wanted to see it, and I have a lot of friends who are huge Pitt fans, and they don't have a lot of confidence anymore either. So,
wow. So Andy, home squad then escaped. Home squad bailed on them. But Sarah, I got a feeling that Andy still got a little bit of faith in the Pitt Panthers. We ain't talked. I'm just saying, we ain't talked. So Andy, give me the preview of what you talking about with Pitt versus Clemson, bro.
Yeah, I'd say it's less faith in Pitt and more skepticism with Clemson. They have been a team that the numbers don't love, but they don't hate. Like Clemson, 12th in FPI. You go to SP Plus, and they're similar kind of mid-teen or high teen rankings here. The thing with them that is concerning to me is that they all season have had this consistency of being able to take advantage of teams that they are better than and struggling with any team that is even remotely close to their level. So we saw them get waxed in week 1 against Georgia. And then from there, they decimate App State, NC State, Stanford, Florida State. They only won by 16. They dominate Wake Forest. And then the last few weeks are starting to show, I think, that vulnerability in them, because they only beat Virginia by 17. And they gave up 31 points to the Cavaliers, who have struggled on offense all season long. They lose to Louisville big, and again, give up 33 points there against a bad Virginia Tech team, like a Virginia Tech team that is really the wheels are falling off on every way. They only win that one by 10. And again, it's in Blacksburg, so that's a reason. So now they're going on the road to a Pitt team in a game that is kind of save your season, play into the ACC title game here. I think Clemson's the better team, but I do think that Pitt can match up for them man to man. And Clemson has struggled in those games. But like Sarah's saying, Clemson's strength is the defense, or at least it's supposed to be the defense. And Pitt's weakness right now is this offense. And so I don't think that Pitt has what it takes to take advantage. One thing that we have seen Pitt do, and we saw them do it against Syracuse, and we've seen them do it against other teams, if that defensive front can cause havoc and can cause Cade Klubnik to take some bad throws, which has not been something that he's done in a minute, but we know he's very capable of doing, that is how Pitt can potentially keep this game close. And I do think that the Pitt defense is going to cause some issues for Cade Klubnik and Clemson. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to necessarily flip the script here.
Man, great facts out of both of you guys. And I'm just going to say this. Cade Klubnik is garbage. He's trash. He came in a high-ranked high school kid out of Austin, Texas. Paid attention to him from the very beginning. It's Westlake, same school to produce Drew Brees. And he's nowhere close to Drew Brees. He's not even an efficient college football quarterback. And I think that's the issue. Dabo refuses to bring in players that can bring Clemson back to the pinnacle that they used to be. And that's across the board. He doesn't use the portal. And I personally think that college football has passed Dabo up. And I think this is going to be the game that doesn't necessarily put the nail in the coffin for Dabo, but says, look, you don't belong in a college football playoff. And until you get with this NIL, transfer portal, bringing in players, stockpiling, the game has passed you up. So I'm just going to say my score first, and then I'm going to throw it to y'all. Give me Pitt 28, Clemson 17. I like Pitt to win the game. I like them to beat up on Clemson real bad this week. I think it's going to be a little bit cold. I think them South Carolina boys ain't going to want to play. And Pitt knows that they can salvage their season. So I like Pitt. Sarah, it's your team. It's your squad. What you going to pick?
It's my home squad. Not my full squad, but it's my home squad. I sadly did pick Clemson because of the fact that I have watched a lot of Pitt. I've watched a lot of Pitt over the years, and it just disappointment is becoming their main word at the end of the season. I do like that defense. I do agree with you, Andy. And I think Clemson's biggest test is going to be like one of our comments about South Carolina. I think that's going to be the biggest one that they're probably might not pass by, but that's in a couple weeks. So I think that Pitt is going to give them a game because that's what they do. But I picked Clemson to win 24-21.
Like it. Andy, score prediction, bro, out you, man. I got to know.
Yeah, Sarah, you hit the nail on the head with me. I think Clemson's going to fall. I don't think it's going to be this week. I specifically think it's going to be against South Carolina as well. But I do think that Pitt will the way that Pitt can make this game close, and the way that I think Pitt will make this game close, just commit to the run game. Clemson again, force that defense to play to the level that we think they are, because they haven't been the last few weeks. So attack what you know will work, and will keep things as simple as possible. And you tell Narduzzi that the game plan is to run the ball, he's going to be excited. He's going to have these guys jacked to do it. I just think that Cade Klubnik will have at least one turnover, but I also think he's going to have multiple touchdowns in this game. So give me Clemson to win this game 31-24, single score touchdown game here. You know, Pitt covers here, but I don't think that they can catch up to the firepower that Clemson has.
Feeling it. All right, y'all, we got to pause for the cause. Take another quick commercial break, get a word from our partners and sponsors. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we'll be right back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. And wherever you get your audio podcast, just hold on. We'll be right back with the Level Up crew talking college football. And we're back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Andy P, Sarah C, Big G in the building. We chopping it up. We done had a great discussion. We appreciate all those people over there in the live chat and the comments. Keep them coming. Keep them rolling. But, y'all, we got a couple more games we got to talk about. So this game, when I did the preview and I looked at the schedule, I was like, this week is sort of weak a little bit. But this game has big implications, especially based on the team that we're going to talk about and what they've done over the last 2 weeks. So we're going to talk about the Kansas Jayhawks playing at number 9 BYU, who just came off of to me, referee one game against Utah, and they got beat up. So now here comes this high-flying Jayhawk team that all of a sudden has gotten healthy and decimated a couple of teams that we didn't think that they could beat over the last couple of weeks. So, Andy, listen, man. It's Kansas, BYU. BYU winning, you're in. What you thinking this week for these two teams?
I'll tell you this right now. BYU is a team that the numbers just do not love in the same way that their record shows. SP Plus has them as the 22nd ranked team, which again, not close to where they are. FPI has them as the 27th ranked team, which again, that's nowhere near where we're putting them in the playoff. When it comes to EPA, they're a little bit better. They're the 18th team. This is just a team that, when we're talking about fool's gold earlier, this is a team that, even though they control their own destiny, this is why they're only a 3-point favorite at home against a team with a losing record. There's just not really any way that you can slice them as being significantly better than Kansas. And for me, this game is going to come all down to the quarterback. So you kind of mentioned it, Big G. This past week was the first week that we saw Jalen Daniels do what he needed to do. Third in the country across all quarterbacks in QBR this week with a 95.5, near perfect. He was averaging 8.6 EPA per drop back, was able to get positive on both pass and run. Facts. Guy finally just woke up and was able to do what he needed to do back there, because this offense for Kansas only works if Jalen Daniels works. And that's been the issue all season long here. He's had a really tough go of it this season, just finding consistency, finding health. Last few weeks, he has been finally putting it all together. We saw him play a really solid game against Kansas State in that 2-point loss. He shredded Houston a few weeks ago, and also played fairly solid in their loss against ASU, which was also a 1-score loss. So you're just seeing this Kansas team while they're not perfect, that defense leaves a lot to be desired right now. The offense is humming on all cylinders, and it's because of Jalen Daniels.
I don't disagree. So, Sarah, this is another one of those games like you're like, I don't know. But you tell me why BYU should beat Kansas.
I don't know. I have a lot of questions about this team after this past week. More and more questions. I didn't think Retzloff looked super, super comfortable. I thought he, was very again, I keep using it, but like that little arm, just looks like I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm going to go into this, throw the ball away. Just looked messy. And I was not impressed with the coaching. And that was one of the biggest things. The way that they depleted those timeouts at the end of the game, I truly had no idea what was happening. And I've watched a lot of the highlights and taping on Kansas recently. They have gotten so much better, and they really haven't been blown out more than once. They've played close. And that has a lot to do with the fact that, the injuries and everything like that. I was really impressed by their running back this past week. I think that, they have such a great offensive line. And as long as they can really, really keep the running back and their quarterback protected, I think that they really have a really great chance. I lost a lot of faith and hope in BYU. And I, I was really high on Utah at the beginning of the season. I was really impressed by that. And that defense really showed up and really, really showed the weaknesses that BYU has. I don't think Russell is as good as everyone thought he was at the beginning of the season. And I think that they lucked out. They lucked out real big this past week. And, they were 1 of 12 on third down efficiency. And I don't know. I've looked at the stats on Kansas. That offensive line has only allowed 8 sacks. And, Devin Neal he can run and he can run hard. And I just don't see BYU being able to stop him. They're not as strong up front as they are in their secondary. So truly that's where it's going to go. If their secondary can play, get the interceptions, because that seems to be Daniel's one little weakness that he does have right now, is that he has given the ball away. And that seems to be what's making them, look a little bit not winning the games in the end. But they were ranked high at the beginning of the season for a reason. They have talent. They are a good team. They just have had some really, really bad games and some bad luck with injuries and stuff like that. So this game, I think, is going to come down to probably the end again, because BYU week by week is just starting to not look like as strong as they did at the beginning of the season.
Man, I don't disagree with either one of y'all. And I think BYU is now the Miami, because we just knew it wasn't a matter of if they would lose.
It's when.
It was a matter of when they would lose. And Tim Lyons, you're absolutely right. Kansas just beat the brake shoes off of Iowa State, right? And Iowa State was coming off. They was a one-loss team. I mean, a team that hadn't lost, caught the Jayhawks, and the Jayhawks was hitting on all cylinders. So now, with a game that I knew that BYU should have lost, here comes Kansas. So I'm going to let y'all pick first, since I went first last time and I stuck my chest out. I'm going to say, Sarah, who you got to win the game and what's the score?
So this was my upset, I guess, I picked for the week. I picked Kansas. I just really think that they're going to end up winning out. They might end up being able to be bowl eligible. I'd really like to see that. I think it's going to be close because of the fact that the defense, it doesn't impress me as much, but I went 28-24 Kansas.
I like it. Andy, who you got, bro?
Sarah, we are just on the same wavelength here. The numbers think that BYU is going to win this game by about a touchdown. I disagree because it's looking at Kansas holistically. It's not looking at Kansas over the last few weeks. My guy, who I think is going to be the difference maker here, Kobe Bryant, the defensive back for Kansas, been real quiet this year. He had 3 picks in that game against Houston, but hasn't really done a whole lot otherwise. I feel like he's a senior. I feel like this is the game where he shows out here. I'm picking Kansas to win this one. I do think it'll be high scoring, so give me the Jayhawks to win this one, 31-28. They go into Provo and get it done.
Listen, y'all don't know I did this, but I went back and did some research. And since we became a trifecta, When all three of us pick the same team, we have a 92% rate of winning. That's our percentage. When all three of us pick the same team. So guess what? All three of us is picking the same team. Give me the Kansas Jayhawks to get the dub. I like Daniels. I think he's going to do some strange things, and we're going to get BYU up out of here for the Big 12 championship game. Give me Kansas to win 31-24 and get BYU up out of there. Get them up out of there, and Kansas is going bowling. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last game, and probably the game everybody came to talk about because it's the highest ranked game on the entire schedule. We have the Tennessee Volunteers currently ranked number 7. I think they're going to be up a little bit in the poll. Playing Georgia Bulldogs, who just took that spanking against Ole Miss. And I'm here to tell you, don't let anybody else tell you, Georgia is not in control of their destiny. Georgia has to win and hope teams lose to make it to the SEC championship game. But who is in control is Tennessee. Tennessee is in control of their own destiny by winning out. So I want to know what you guys are thinking concerning Tennessee and Georgia. Sarah, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I mean, first of all, I always say trust Dylan Sampson. I just think that he is so good in that backfield. I really, really enjoy watching him. When I was doing my research, I was watching an interview with Heupel, and I kind of like the way he talks. And one of the things that he really, really said, which I was kind of impressed by, and because he's looking at this game like, hey, I might be able to pull this off, and this would be a big one for him. But he's like, we need to do the ordinary things at the highest level of consistency. And they kind of have been able to do that enough to get by these games. I mean, they're one lot, but they haven't really looked great on offense other than Dylan Sampson. I mean, Nico really, again, throws a really nice ball. I think that it's mostly just the fact maturity and, experience is really what he needs. And I think that's going to come over the next couple of years. And Tennessee's defense is just good. They haven't allowed one game this season with more than 20 points. I mean, they're winning with only like 22 points, 19 points, but they're not letting these teams even try to get that extra winning touchdown or anything like that. And then, what did I see? Their average is 12.6 points. But again, nothing has ever been even close to, it was 19 was the highest they've let score. But then you have Georgia. Georgia's offensive line has let so much pressure onto Beck. They only had 245 yards of offense last week. He's had 12 interceptions, 4 fumbles. He's only lost 2, but still, I mean, this is 3 times more than what he had last year. He is not the same person. And I just think that Tennessee has so much more talent on their side defensively that they are going to make him so uncomfortable that this could be his, 3rd or 4th 3 interception game? I can't remember how many he's had where he's given up. He's had 6 games now where he's given up at least 1. But I think it's going to come down to that defense. And I think it's going to come down to Sampson getting into that end zone a few times. I don't know how healthy Nico is. I don't think they're going to make him do too much because they want him to be healthy when they make the playoffs and the SEC championship. And like you said, they are the ones that control their destiny. And I really like the way that Heupel has been coaching this team. And I think he's really putting that into them. Like I said, ordinary things at a really high level of consistency. So I really like Tennessee in this game. So this is probably one of the biggest games I'm been excited for in a while after this past couple weeks.
I'm digging it. Andy, bro, the breakdown of the Georgia-Tennessee game, bro. What you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, look, Sarah's 100% right. Carson Beck has been bad to unplayable this season. And I don't say that lightly. The last time that Carson Beck was a top 25 quarterback in the country by QBR, you have to go all the way back to week 6 of the college football season. he has barely been a top 50 quarterback in any other week of the season. This is just a player who is not very good at the quarterback position. And I think that part of this is is on Carson Beck. I think other part of this is that the Georgia offense has been so reliant the last few years on effective tight end play. And we see this at the NFL level. We see this across college. When you have the easy button tight end play, it makes the game so much easier. Like Penn State's offense is not good, but they have probably the best tight end in the country. And therefore they've only lost one game to Ohio State, and they were in that game.
That's facts.
True.
And Georgia has not really found another weapon to replace what they're losing in what they lost in Brock Bowers. And it shows with Carson Beck. It shows in the running game. They've had multiple running backs back there. They've had to filter around the offensive line. My only concern with this is that when you flip it on to the other Tennessee side, yes, Dylan Sampson, probably the best running back in the country, but that Tennessee offensive line is still really struggling and really shuffling around. There's a lot of bodies that are banged up. There's a lot of bodies that are not perfect. And if you were to ask me, like, what is the perfect bounce back game scenario for a Kirby Smart defense? It is a game where he can rush 4 to 6 guys, heads down, put them down, and put up a defensive scheme that's all around simple pressure with less guys. And so for me, we've seen Nico really get better this season by just making the simple throw, just by saying, like, look, if my first guy isn't here, I'm going to take the check down. Kirby knows this, and I am genuinely worried that, like, when we're watching this game, this is just going to be a rock fight, man, because I think that Tennessee's offense, when it's not working, is a bit of a clunker offense, and Georgia's offense, we know, is a clunker offense when it goes up against a team with elite front fours. Like, this is a game where whatever the under is, I'm taking the under here, because I just don't think that there's going to be a lot of high scoring in this game. It's going to come down to which defense can make the big turnover and make the big interception, because I think both teams are going to try to come out and play this one pretty conservatively, knowing how good the front four and how the front seven is just going to dictate the terms of this engagement.
I'm feeling it. But, I got to tell y'all something, man, and I'm just being blunt about it. Carson Beck, and we said it in the show earlier, Carson Beck is not that guy. And where he struggles is when teams get in his face and put all kind of pressure on him. The Tennessee Volunteers have 22 sacks on the season. And they have 2 game records in Pierce and Norman Lott, the 2 defensive ends that they have. They're game records. One of them's got 3.5 sacks. The other one's got 5.5 sacks. But they get a lot of holding calls on them. And Georgia's the type of team that if they get a 1st and 20 because of a holding call, they might as well go off to the sideline and punt, because they're not picking up the first down. They're not able to attack you consistently vertically. And they haven't been shown that they can run the ball consistently between Frazier and ETN. So what's that telling me? Tennessee and Georgia are going to both try to knock each other's quarterback out of the game. Tennessee's going to diligently get after Beck. Georgia's going to get on Nico. And whatever quarterback survives that first quarter probably will be the team that wins. Because I think they're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at each other to try to knock the opposing quarterback out, or just get them to where they get frazzled and they start throwing INTs, right? So saying all that, because it's the big game of the week, ABC will be there, College Game Day's there, between the hedges in Athens. Andy, who you got this week, man?
I am going to pick the Georgia Bulldogs here just because I think, again, it's like the old Nick Saban rule. The last time that you wanted to play Bama is when they're coming off of a loss. And I think that Kirby is Saban light. And I think that we are looking at the last time that you want to play Georgia is when they're at home coming off of a loss. I don't think it's going to be pretty. So give me the Bulldogs to win this one 20-17 in a game that everyone's going to watch and everyone's going to say, nah, I really wish I didn't watch this game.
All right. So you like the Bulldogs. Sarah, who you got this week?
Well, I think I kind of gave it up in my analysis. I'm really going for Tennessee in this one. I think that, yeah, I mean, Kirby is a little bit Saban light, definitely has that drive in him that he wants to win. And I don't think it's going to be a coaching thing that's going to win this game. I think it's just going to be a talent. And it's going to be, again, who gets the most pressure on which quarterback. And the only thing that you can say is that if Nico's inexperience really does show in this game,
Sarah, we missed your last comments. We can't hear you. You went out.
Yeah, we lost you there a little bit, Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think she froze up.
Kirby can play on that, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was like, everyone started going little circles.
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you.
So yeah, I think that it's just going to come down to, again, I think I totally agree with you, Big G. It's going to be about who can get to the quarterback the most and who goes out. I just have a little bit more, I don't know. I really like that run game on Tennessee. I really just think that they're going to be able to do that a lot more. So I went with 21-17 Tennessee. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be a big defensive game. It's going to look like those games that, yeah, you don't like to watch, but man, you like the way it ends.
Man, I feel it. So Andy, you went with Georgia. Sarah, you went with Tennessee. So I got to be the tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I trust more, Nico or Beck? What do I trust more, Georgia's defensive line or Tennessee's defensive line? And then what coach do I trust more, Strong or Heupel? And who controls their destiny? Georgia doesn't even win a win. Tennessee win and you're in. Give me the Tennessee Volunteers. I think that Tennessee puts it into the conversation, even though I know that Georgia is reeling and they're upset about their loss because they got handled against Ole Miss. But Tennessee knows that they control their own destiny. They have Vanderbilt left. They have one non-conference game in Vanderbilt. They're going to win both games. Tennessee, with a win, goes to the SEC championship game. So I'm going with the Volunteers. I think they win and they separate this week. And the elimination game, and now Georgia's done. Because like I said, even if Georgia wins, they don't control their own destiny. They definitely need Ole Miss to lose. They definitely need A&M to lose. And they definitely need Alabama to lose. So they don't control necessarily their own destiny to get there. So it's a lot going on. And I think the Tennessee know. And by the way, and they got to beat Tennessee too. So, I think Tennessee knows that they win. And I know if they win, they're in. So give me the Volunteers to win 28-20 against Georgia and know that they basically punched their ticket to the SEC championship game. All right, y'all, we've come to the end of the show. We got to get to our sneaky picks that we do every week. So, Andy, I'm going to start with you. Who's your sneaky game of the week this week, bro?
Don't think it's so sneaky because nothing that he does is sneaky, but pay attention to what's happening out in Colorado with Coach Prime, man. They're playing against Utah. Utah is the type of team that should give the old Colorado a lot of trouble. The numbers have this game as basically a dead heat. So it's one of those ones where I think that it's going to come down to be a close game. And if the BYU game goes the way that we think it is, like Colorado's playing and controls its own destiny to get into the Big 12 title game here. So this game is huge on a lot of different levels here. And I think it's going to ultimately come down to, can Shadur Sanders or Travis Hunter make the big play yet again to win the game for Colorado?
Yeah, I feel, listen, Rob Lightfoot, Vanderbilt ain't beating Tennessee, dog. You get, listen, the Mexican Manziel's not handling his business. He's had a great season, but he's not going to beat Tennessee, bro. Just trust me, it's not going to happen. So, Sarah, what's your sneaky game of the week?
Man, me and Andy are really on the same page this week because that was the first one that popped out to me this week. Just after watching that game this past, I watched that whole thing this past week, and they're going to be itching to pull an upset right now. So Colorado's holding on to their destiny right now, and this could be the big test now. I think Tech really, we thought that was going to be it. now this might end up being it. Then they think they're going to probably send themselves into the Big 12 championship. But, Utah's defense looked a lot better. And I was actually slightly impressed with that new quarterback. So I think it's going to be a game. I think Colorado possibly is going, or more than likely is going to pull it off. But I'm really intrigued to watch it after this past week.
I feel y'all. I got a sneaky game, and I don't even know if y'all looked at this one. Boston College versus SMU. Calistinos is a little different. That little fella a little different, man. He will kill you all day and night with the RPO, right? And SMU is flying high because they see that there's a clear path to them to the Big 12 championship game. They see it. They know that they're in control of their own destiny. And sometimes when you get new teams that ain't had that before, they don't know how to handle the moment. So I know Dave O'Brien. I know his coaching style. I know what he's going to do. And he loves to pull upsets too. So I'm not saying Boston College is going to win. But I'm saying that Boston College SMU game is going to be a whole lot closer than a lot of people think. All right, y'all. Final thoughts as we get off the pod. Andy, what you got going on, bro?
Excited that we're coming down the home stretch. Looking forward to, even though it's a smaller group of games here, they're all going to be good. We still got a fun Saturday lined up for everybody here.
Feeling it. Sarah, what you got happening?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I can't wait for this weekend. I'm going to be with a bunch of other college football fans hanging out, having a little cookout, but probably mostly inside. Hopefully maybe even a little bit of a fire if we can watch the night game outside. So that's the only thing I can hope for. So I'm excited for this game. I'm really excited for that night game. So we will see. I'm
loving it. You guys make sure you all hit the like as you go out. We appreciate all the people we've had. This is the most people we've had in the live chat in a long time. So we appreciate all you guys rocking with us. We're growing as a channel. We're growing as a YouTube network. So we appreciate you. All the comments, all the things. We try to get to what we got to get to, but we handle our business concerning the topics because that's how we get out on a level up. So, but we thank you, and we're always going to interact with our people because we know without you guys, there ain't no us. So once again, for myself, Big G, Andy P, and Sarah C, the Level Up crew bids you farewell. Adios, muchachos. And we'll see you guys next week on the Level Up College Football Podcast. Peace.